On to the next step here. Now, this is one I made to figure out this method here. And you have to make a decision here how you're going to mount this or what it's going to sit on. If you just leave it round, the thing is going to rock all over the place and it's kind of useless as far as I could see. But you could take a board or something and screw it on the bottom there. But what I decided to do is to make it a little more practical, and that is to make a flat bottom so it sit on the table and be useful like that. So what I want to do is plane the bottom of this off to make a flat surface there, and it'll work good for when we do the lathing as well. So you'll see what an advantage that is even in that step. But I've taken and made the circles on there. As you can see, you have to draw a line right across here very carefully so it intersects this point and this point, and then find the exact middle, and then with your compass draw a line. That'll give you you'll find out where the back part is. And as you come along with your compass along here, you can see how accurate you are. This one came out just right on. I was actually quite pleased. Then I just drew another line on the inside. Let's say that's where your edge of your bowl is going to be. And if you notice that it's pretty well the same all the way around from this side to this side. It's different. And then I put some lines on here because I want to cut this off. I just made this piece of block. I knew it was going to be longer than I wanted, but I'm going to cut it off here before I mount it to lay there. So to plane the bottom off here, I want to plane it exactly on here. The first ones I did when I was just practicing, I just did it by eye, and then when I went to mount it, it was crooked. I had to lay it down a little bit. So this is the method I've decided to do here, and that is I cut a little block of wood, exactly the same thickness of this, and then I'm going to screw that onto there, and then when I go to the jointer, this will sit flat on the jointer surface, and then I can start planing off there. So I'll go ahead and do that. So I lay it flat so it's exactly parallel to the top there, and then that's one advantage of having this left longer too. And then when I turn it over, it sits flat like that. If you wanted, you could make something like this in the end here, put it on there permanently if you wanted it, an end on there, a different material or something. But these screws go into here, and you can see the advantage of me cutting it off there. So I'll go home and go away. I'll go plane that off there. It makes a lot of noise, so no need you listening to that. And probably get this cut off, and then we're ready to start mounting it, I guess, on something. And there's a little trick on the way to do that too. Okay, I've got the bottom done. You'll notice the profile now has changed a little bit different there, so flat on the bottom. And before we start mounting it, there's one step that we should do now, but that could even be done later. And that is you need a center point. Right exactly in the center is when you used your compass to draw these circles here. So mark that accurately as you can, and I've used the center punch here and punched that in to make a nice dimple there. And then I'm going to use the center drill. Just again, this is the tool that you need in your shop when you're doing any lathe work or many other things, screws, whatever. And define that. You just bring it down till it comes to that point. This is a fairly small one. I've got bigger ones too. And then this is ground to fit all the live centers, whether it's metalwork or woodwork or whatever. They're all the same slope here. That will match that. Don't use drills and things like that. It won't drill properly. You can get it off center, etc. So now we should be ready to get this mounted on a board. So I'll show you my method, and you can go from there. You might figure on doing something yourself, but what I'm going to show you, I've never seen it in any of the other videos, and it certainly makes everything a lot simpler. So what you're going to do, at least this is what I did, and it worked out better than I even thought, I expected when I thought about it, is you're going to mount it on a fairly heavy piece of wood. You could use plywood or something like that too, but a nice plank would work. This is a 2x9 hemlock anyway. And then position your unit on the side with the end flush at the back here. And this wood over here has to be counterbalanced at this end here. So that's why we're leaving that longer. So take and we'll remove some of this wood because we don't need it here. And just come up like that with a nice curve on both sides. Okay, so it looks something like that there. And then take the bandsaw. When I cut this, I'll probably cut in a little farther because I don't need that much wood there. That will reduce the mass on this end, and then we have less to counterbalance there. Now we have to come to a point where we have to decide how we're going to fasten this to this board here. This board's going to be fastened to a faceplate. But you can go through my video here and then watch other people that did the same project and see how they did it. They've done it all sorts of different ways. They've used clamps, they've used pieces of wood to wedge it in, and pieces under here, and all kinds of different things. But they produce good projects. There's no doubt about that. So you have to kind of decide which way you want to do it. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a wood screw and screw it right solid to that thing there. And yeah, it'll leave a little hole there for the screws there, but that sits on the bottom. You can fill that, or there's other things we can do there too. And you saw how easy it was for me to pop that thing off there. You could use glue in there, and with the paper there, that may hold it strong enough too. But even with the paper, I'd almost recommend screws there. In fact, on this one, I think I'm going to use some paper and glue, and then and the screws. I haven't done that before, and that was kind of easy to pop apart there. But all it has to do is be fastened to a board securely. And but if you follow this method, we can put this on right away. If you do some of the other methods, it's be more complicated, because I'm going to put the faceplate on here after this is secured on here. It just makes it a lot easier, I think, anyway. And I'll show you some methods that you can use to get the faceplate on, or maybe even a little different method to attach. Still screwing it, but it might be a little different, but whatever. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and screw this in there. 2 screws is more than adequate. We've got lots of wood here to work with. And then we're going to be ready to balance it. Okay, I got this securely fastened to the plank here with 2 screws. I decided just to go with the screws. And what you have to do is, you know that this bowl is going to be here, so I'll put a mark there. You know your screws have got to be on this side of that mark. You come down here from your thing, and what I did is I slanted the screw, and it's all right to start it there, but you slant your screw a little bit at an angle like that on that one there. And then you don't want to go into the bowl, it's hard on your chisels in the end. And so that's done. And the screw at the very end there, I used a drill, and I drilled it out so the screw didn't force its way into the wood, because I did have one where I was practicing, and I kind of split the end a little bit there, so be a little cautious there. And my screws go into here a good inch or so. Anyway, so now we have to balance it. Now this was one of the reasons for using a fairly heavy piece, is I just put a pencil down there where this point is, because you're going to be turning on your live center right in your center here. So what you're going to do is cut this away till it balances. And actually what you want is so it tips a little bit, it tips this way, because you're going to be removing wood here, which will put it out of balance. So we want to get enough wood off of this side so it'll tip like that. So I left that quite long, and just a matter, my pencil's underneath there, so, and what I do is I just make a curved line there, like that. So start long, and then just keep cutting until you get it balanced. So I'll go ahead and cut the end off here, and I'll check it a couple times, and then I'll show you it balancing the other direction. Okay, I made about 4 cuts there, cut it off, and then 1/4 inch cuts along here, curved that up. Now this is actually fairly close to being balanced. But it'll sit this way or that way. So I actually could remove just a little bit more, because I'll be taking a 1/4 inch off here. This part's okay, because that's going to be centered on balance. Just this little bit of wood in here that we're going to cut this down here. So I could probably cut that just a hair more, but that's not bad. That'll run smooth on the mill. You'll see some of the other videos that people do, and they take a board and they screw weights to it and stuff like that, but this is super simple. Reduce some of the here, leave a wider board, fairly thick for a counterbalance, just cut it, and it'll spin smoothly on your lathe. So anyway, the next step, of course, is to mount this on the lathe. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then there's just a little bit of lathe work, and it'll be totally finished. Okay, now it comes time to put this on the lathe, and this makes it, the way I'm doing it is just really, really easy. I got to put a large faceplate on the one of my larger faceplates on the lathe, and then it's just a matter of taking this and lining it up with our center hole, and pinch it in there securely. Turn it around a few times, make sure it's all okay, and then we're just going to screw it onto there. Now to screw that onto there, I've got one of these units for a right angle drive, and I shortened this up a little bit, just quickly took and cutter and ground the end off it, and then put it in the drill, ground it on the corner of the grindstone, and made a new thing in there. So it looks like the original one, but it's just a little shorter. Just gives me a little bit more room in here. Now I've got plenty of room. The first ones I did, I just used it the full length, but what I did, and you can see this here from there, I cut this out here a little too much. I wasn't thinking about the size of the thing there. So you can plan that plan this cutout to your whatever faceplate you have. And next time I think I will do it a little different and maybe put that in there, because you could pinch this up like this, draw it out, draw a circle around there with a pencil, and then take it off the lathe and screw the faceplate on there. That might work, but with this unit here, it works super simple. I put one on one side and then turn it around, put one on the other side, just so you don't. And 4 screws would be enough, but this is a homemade faceplate, and I've got possibility of 6 holes, and in 2 different diameters. So, and that's one reason why I shortened that up, because then I can reach in farther and put one on the inner ring as well, so I can get it well balanced. And I'll put one more in. There we go, all done. It's fastened on here securely with 2 good screws. And it's balanced out by having a longer board and cutting it till I'm balanced. So when I turn the lathe on, it should turn nicely and not vibrate. Let's give it a try. Runs smooth as silk. So we're just ready to, we'll just lay this section off here a little bit on the outside. And then the center of the bowl, just 2 things, and sand it up. We're all done. This method makes this type of project super easy to do, and you won't make a mistake even the first time. So I'll do a little lathe work here, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, here's a close-up of this project here, and if you look at this rim of the bowl here, I've brought this down just so you can see it. This is just touching, coming around here and just barely touching the outer rim of the bowl, and then it follows it around, and I've got just a little bit there, but that can be sanded off down a little bit, and comes back and joins it again here. And then I've laid this down a bit here so you can see that. And you'll notice as I come around here, this width of that is the same all the way around. That's what you're looking for. The width, same around. Now, my tool rest is parallel to this surface here. So when you're lathing, you can rest your arm on here with a scraper or start it out with a gouge. So you can judge your thickness as you go along. You can get it exactly the same thickness. You can run your hand right along there, finishing up probably with a scraper or something. And then once this outer part is done, then I just take this away, because this is fastened on here securely, and laid out the center of the bowl. It's not a big bowl, so it doesn't take very long. Okay, that's what it looks like so far. I've used the scraper to get this fairly flat. I'll turn it on here and then make a few cuts so you can see what you're up against. It kind of disappears, but by using this as a guide here, and just very carefully coming along there, you can get a flat surface. But it's still spinning quite smooth, even though I've taken some of this wood off here. It's still smooth. You want to make a nice lip coming up here. Now I'm going to use the gouge and cut that down to make it straight there so it follows the curve of the bowl there. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then I can take this away and take the bowl, carve the bowl out. Okay, I repositioned the camera a bit. I've got a wall behind me so I can't get the camera in there, but put it towards the end. And just so you can see, I'm making a couple cuts there. Ooh. And we just continue down, and we keep the wall thickness the same all the way around. I have one of these inside-outside type caliper, which I'll use, and keep checking it. You don't want to cut through the bottom of this one. You spend a lot of time getting this far. But there's not a lot of wood to take out, so it doesn't take long. Just keep track of it. The only part you need to sand on when it's on the lathe is the cup here. And I'm going to use a right angle drill with a foam pad. I make these up, and I've got one here that's soft, so it'll sand in there really well. This part here, it's quite hard to sand when it's spinning around there. It knocks the discs off the sander and stuff like that. So I can actually sand this here when it's off the lathe with a flat sander there. I'll show you that too. But yeah, that's come along quite smooth there, and a nice narrow rim around it there. A little bit of touch-up work here and there to get it just perfect, but it's not too bad. It's an easy way to do this project. Okay, for this surface I have this sander that's shaped like this, got nice edges on here, vibrates like crazy. So I'm giving it a try here. Before I took it, I took it right off here and then sanded it, but this seems to be a little easier. You can move it with this hand and sand with the other one. So I'll show you that one. You saw me going around the edge here like this. If you don't get it quite right, you can go along after and just sand your edges here a little bit till you get a nice even distance all the way around. And being this is curved here, you can take a little bit off there and just blend it in with your sander. I'll be taking this off and using a vibrator sander on it to the newer high-speed ones. Finish it off with, but this thing works pretty good here just to get it roughed up. Okay, I've taken the first one off the lathe there, and it's ready just for some final sanding there, and then finish. So I decided I'd start the next one right away. And I just used the same piece. And when I put it on the pencil there to see if it would balance, it was just a little heavy on this end. So I cut a little bit extra off the other end there. I guess you can't see that there. So I'm just using a pencil there. Now it's just slightly heavy to this end. That's what we want, because we're going to remove some metal off of there. I just drew the line across, found the exact center, used the center drill again, and put it on the board. Now this time I thought, well, I'll try the paper trick. So I put a little bit of paper there and then screwed it up solid, let that dry for a little bit there, and then I'll do it. I just felt on this one here, when I went to do the inside of the bowl, it just seemed like it had shifted just a slight bit, and I had to re-lathe this around there just a little bit, and then just smooth this side up to get it even. But you can fudge that a little bit if yours is not perfect there. So I'll go ahead and build this one, and eventually, I guess, show you the finished product there. So we'll catch you once more before we sign off for the day. Okay, after that lengthy video, 2 parts there, but I covered everything that you need to know to make a good project the very first time. This is the completed project with a finish on and that. I'm kind of happy with it. It's the best one so far. And of course, you always get 2 of them. I didn't even mess up the second one or the first one. I don't know which way it is. Sometimes you mess up the first one, have to do the next one. Sometimes you mess up the last one because you think you know what you're doing. But it's not a hard project. It goes quite quickly. And once you understand the principle and follow some of the layout things that I've put there, you'll be very successful. So that's those, and I think you've seen these were the ones I made first before I made that one, after I figured out what to do. And then these were my experiments, and they came out not bad, but not near as good as these, because making this dome on the end, when these are lathed in one piece like that, that if you have a template to make that round, that's half the challenge right there. The rest of it is super simple. Actually, all of it's quite easy there, but lathe one out, or 2 of them out, and people will be impressed with your ability there. So thanks for watching my videos there, and I really appreciate all the interest, and I appreciate comments for sure. And subscribe if you like them there. So thank you again. See you next time for another great idea.